The unanswered question. 4 years, that's how long a family waited, how long a community wondered, how long a river kept a secret. In January 2018, a 16-year-old boy named Jed Hall walked out of his life, leaving behind a note, a trail of confusing clues, and a question that would echo for over 1,500 days. Where did he go? The search would stretch across states, dive into cold rivers, and sift through 1,000 theories. Everyone had an answer, but the truth was waiting, silent, in 8 feet of water. This is the story of a disappearance that refused to be solved, and the relentless pursuit for a single, devastating answer. The city of Idaho Falls, Idaho, sleeps under a deep winter freeze in the early hours of Monday, January 22, 2018. The Snake River, a powerful ribbon of water cutting through the town, flows dark and cold. In a quiet house, a family is asleep. Among them is 16-year-old Matthew Jedediah Hall, Jade to everyone who knew him. By all accounts from his parents, he was a typical teen with good grades and an interest in serving his country. But in the hidden pages of a private journal and the quiet corners of his mind, a storm was brewing, a plan was forming, and a different Jade was emerging. Sometime after 2 a.m., while his world is asleep, Jade moves. He gathers things, camping gear, survival equipment, a 9mm handgun. He takes the keys to his car, a gray 2009 Nissan Versa hatchback. And he leaves behind a note. The words in that note would become the first official clue, the defining frame through which his disappearance would be seen for years. They indicated he may attempt suicide. With that note on the table, he walks out into the biting night. But he doesn't drive away into the darkness. Not yet. Instead, he goes to a place he knows well, the American Heritage Charter School just outside the city limits. At approximately 2:30 a.m., security cameras silently record a haunting scene. A figure identified as Jed Hall arrives. He is dressed purposefully, some reports noting items like knee pads and combat boots. He breaks a window to gain entry. Inside the empty, echoing halls, he goes to a specific locker, a friend's locker. He leaves something inside, a note, some cash, and a necklace. The private investigator later hired by the family would state the cash amounted to $1,000, left for a student Jade had a crush on. It is a gesture loaded with finality, a settling of emotional accounts. Then he leaves the school, gets back into his Nissan Versa, and drives away from the camera's view. The tape ends. It is the last confirmed visual of Jed Hall. Did he return home after this? The official timeline notes, it is unclear whether he left for good from the school or went home first. What is clear is that by the time the winter sun began to threaten the horizon, Jed Hall was gone. At 6:51 a.m., the peace of the Hall home shattered into panic. Jade's parents realized he was not in his room, not getting ready for school. They found his note. The terrifying words sparked immediate action. They called 911 to report their son missing and suicidal. The Idaho Falls Police Department, IFPD, sprang into action. Officers were dispatched. An attempt to locate, bulletin was flashed to area agencies, and the public was asked for help through media alerts. The search for a gray Nissan Versa and a troubled 16-year-old boy had begun. The investigation moved with the frantic energy of those first critical hours. Police pinged Jade's cell phone, trying to pull a location from the digital ether. They got one last signal. At 6:48 a.m., just minutes before his parents called police, Jade's phone either died or was manually turned off. Its final ping placed it roughly 0.43 miles southeast of a Verizon tower on Lindsay Boulevard. That area is a nexus of possibilities. It includes a stretch of the Snake River, the on-ramps for Highway 20, and is close to the major artery of Interstate 15. It was a clue that pointed everywhere and nowhere at once. A teen could be in the water, on a local road, or halfway to another state. Officers fanned out, searching wooded areas Jade was known to frequent in Idaho Falls and neighboring counties. They interviewed friends and family, trying to stitch together his state of mind. His mother, having discovered the school break-in, led officers there, and the security footage quickly confirmed it was Jade. This act added a layer of confusion, a juvenile crime committed in the midst of a personal crisis. Was it a meaningful clue or a tragic distraction? Then, another piece of the puzzle slammed onto the table, this one with the sound of gunfire. Shortly after 8 a.m. that same day, a resident called police to report damage to their home and vehicle from what appeared to be gunfire, likely occurring in the early morning hours. This was investigated as a separate incident. But as the investigation into Jade deepened, a connection was suggested. The private investigator, James Michael Terry, would later uncover journal entries where Jade wrote of a desire to confront a relative of a classmate, someone he believed had harmed her. Jade's writings were chilling. "I know she will never get better until he is no longer around." The house that was shot at belonged to that very relative. The police acknowledged the question of Jade's involvement, but maintained their priority was finding him as a missing person, not a suspect. Jade's own father expressed doubt his son was involved, pointing out other similar shootings in the area. Yet, the coincidence was stark and troubling, painting a picture of a young man who might have been spiraling into violence, not just fleeing from pain. By 11:47 a.m. on January 22, Jed Hall was officially entered into the National Crime Information Center, NCIC, as a missing juvenile. His name, description, and vehicle details were now in a national database. If any law enforcement officer anywhere in the country ran his plates or name, they would be alerted to contact Idaho Falls. The net, at least on paper, was cast wide, but the net caught only phantoms. In the following days and weeks, data checks showed Jade's license plate had been run by police departments in other states, like Stockton, California. For a moment, each hit flared with hope. Had he been seen? Was he alive in California? Every lead was pursued. Every time, the answer was the same. The Stockton search, for instance, was traced to a detective at her desk headquarters. It was likely a routine check of the missing person bulletin, not a sighting of the car on the street. These were digital ghosts, not breakthroughs. The initial search of the most obvious place, the Snake River near the last phone ping, also yielded nothing. The Bonneville County Sheriff's Office dive team was called in. They used sonar and searched the forebay and upstream sections of the river. They found no sign of a car, no sign of Jade. The river gave up nothing. As days turned into weeks, then months, the case cooled from a feverish search into a grinding investigation. The IFPD continued to follow tips, sightings reported across the country, theories from the public, suggestions from experts. They traveled to other states. They sent the case file to cold case specialists at the family's request. Yet, the central, agonizing fact remained. Jed Hall and his gray Nissan Versa had vanished from the face of the earth. The public story was one of a missing, possibly suicidal teen. But the private evidence, much of it uncovered later by Pi James Terry, suggested a mind teeming with complex, even contradictory plans. In his journal, Jade wrote of RAFH, which Terry believed was a bug-out or runaway plan. He wrote about societal collapse, fears of communism, and a desire to escape a world he saw as closing in. He made detailed lists of survival supplies. He told friends he might go to Canada. He even wrote about faking his own death. Alongside these plans for a new life were the dark musings about violence and the final, sad note his parents found. So who left home that night? A desperate boy on a path to end his life, a determined survivalist executing a plan to disappear and start over, an angry young man seeking vengeance before fleeing. Or was he, as many teenagers are, a turbulent mix of all these feelings, his actions as confusing to himself as they were to those searching for him? The only thing that was certain as the first anniversary passed, then the second, was the silence. The car was gone, Jade was gone. The whole family was trapped in a nightmare without an ending, and the Snake River, which had been searched and searched again, flowed silently through the heart of town, holding its breath and its secrets. For 4 years, the case of Jed Hall existed in a painful state of suspension. It was an open wound for his parents, Amy and Alan Hall, and an unfinished file for the Idaho Falls Police Department. In the public eye, the story had faded from the headlines, replaced by newer tragedies. But for those at the heart of it, the search never stopped. It became a quiet, grinding mission fueled by hope that was slowly being eroded by time. The official investigation pursued every angle. Jed's information remained active in national databases, meaning any police officer who ran his name or his car's license plate would be alerted. Tips came in from across the country and even from other countries. Police traveled to follow up on reported sightings. They worked with the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office dive team, using sonar to search sections of the Snake River near where his phone last pinged. They brought in outside specialists and even sent the entire case file to a cold case unit for a fresh look. Yet, every path led to a dead end. The river searches, focused on areas upstream from the last ping, found nothing. The tips were all false alarms. A key point of confusion and hope for the family was a record showing a detective in Stockton, California, had run Jed's license plate just days after he vanished. This sparked theories he might have driven west. However, a meticulous police investigation revealed the search was run from a desktop computer at police headquarters, not from a patrol car during a traffic stop. It was determined the detective was likely checking the missing person bulletin, not because she had seen the car. It was a digital ghost, a clue that meant nothing but felt like everything. During these long years, the Hall family hired a private investigator, James Michael Terry. His work revealed a Jed that was far more complex than the public knew. Through Jed's journals and online messages, Terry found a teenager deeply immersed in survivalist ideology, writing about societal collapse and a plan he called RAF, likely a bug-out or runaway plan. He had detailed lists of supplies and told friends he might go to Canada. Terry also uncovered the dark writings about a desire to confront a relative of a classmate, connecting Jed to the drive-by shooting that occurred the morning he disappeared. This created two competing narratives that everyone wrestled with. The official file held a missing, possibly suicidal teen. The private evidence pointed to a strategic survivalist who may have committed a crime before executing a plan to vanish. Jed's own father, a former police officer, struggled with the suicide theory. Suicidal people have certain tendencies, Alan Hall said, and Jed didn't have any of those tendencies. He held on to the hope that his son, who took camping gear and a gun, was alive somewhere, living a new life. This hope was the thin thread that kept the nightmare from becoming final. By the spring of 2022, the thread was fraying. 4 years of silence is a powerful answer in itself. Then, a new group entered the story, not from the world of traditional law enforcement, but from the world of YouTube and specialized sonar technology. They were called Adventures with Purpose. This dive team, which had gained a national reputation for solving cold cases by finding vehicles in waterways, learned about Jed's case from their viewers and previous media reports. What caught their expert attention was a single, critical data point everyone had: the last cell phone ping. To them, a ping near a body of water was not just a clue, it was a target. I'm going to say that 95% of the time we have a cell phone ping, we are going to solve the case, a team member said. In late April 2022, they contacted the Idaho Falls Police Department. The police, committed to any legitimate lead, agreed to cooperate. On the morning of May 1, 2022, the team met investigators and Jed's parents, Amy and Alan, at the Snake River boat launch near the Johns Hole boat ramp. The Halls stood on the bank, watching a team they had never met before prepare to search a river that had been searched before. The hope they carried that day was a heavy, complicated thing, a desperate need for an answer, braced for the worst possible one. Doug Bishop, the lead diver, and his team launched their boat armed with high-resolution side-scan sonar. They started their search at 9 a.m., focusing on the area downstream from the boat ramp. They worked from the critical fact. The phone pinged 0.43 miles from a tower, which gave them a specific radius to investigate. What happened next was stunning in its speed. Within 20 minutes of dropping their sonar into the water, the screen lit up with the unmistakable shape of a vehicle. It was about 75 yards downstream from the ramp, only 50 feet from shore, sitting in just 8 feet of water. For 4 years, Jed Hall's grey Nissan Versa had been hidden in a spot barely over the height of a basketball hoop, in a stretch of river running through the heart of his own city. The team confirmed it was Jed's car by the license plates. With law enforcement and a local tow company, they began the somber task of recovery. As the car broke the surface of the Snake River, the reality of 4 years of searching crashed down on the riverbank. Doug Bishop looked at Amy and Alan Hall. "No true words can describe their reaction," he would later say. As a parent of a 16-year-old that's still hoping that their son is going to drive down the driveway any day. Seeing the vehicle that they have been looking for 4 years for the first time, no true words can describe that. Inside the vehicle, which showed clear signs of having been submerged for years, were human remains. The remains were found in the rear of the car, which, as Bishop noted, is common in water accidents when someone isn't wearing a seatbelt. A gun holster and ammo were also in the vehicle. The Hall family's long wait for an answer was over, replaced by the certainty of a devastating truth. "I don't think he grabbed someone else and put them in the car," Alan Hall said, the hope he had clung to finally gone. 3 days later, on May 4, 2022, the Bonneville County Coroner's Office, with assistance from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, positively identified the remains. They were Jed Hall. Law enforcement expressed gratitude to Adventures with Purpose while acknowledging the painful outcome. Police Chief Bryce Johnson stated, "In any missing person case, our sincere hope is to find the person alive and well. While this is not the outcome we had hoped for, our hearts are with the Hall family." The Bonneville County Sheriff's Office offered empathy to the family and noted they would evaluate why their own dive teams, who had searched upstream, had missed the vehicle. The discovery provided the ultimate answer to the central question. Jed had not made it to Canada. He had not started a new life. But in doing so, it raised a final, haunting, and unanswerable series of questions that only Jed himself could have answered. What happened in the car, in those final moments in the dark, frigid water? The evidence showed a young man who left a suicidal note, but also one who packed for survival. A young man who wrote of faking his death, but also one who may have committed a violent act. Did he drive into the river intentionally, or was it a tragic accident on a dark winter road, a wrong turn by a confused and distressed teenager that led to a moment of panic? Was the gun beside him a tool for a new life, or for something else? The river gave up its secret, but it kept the intimate truth of those final seconds locked away forever. For his family, there was now a grave to visit, a place to direct their grief. The torturous not knowing was over, but as Doug Bishop profoundly observed, it's never closure. You never get over losing someone you love. However, when we lose somebody and we don't know what happened, that's the ultimate nightmare. They now know, they knew where, they knew how. But the profound, personal why of Jed Hall's final journey remained a mystery, lingering like the cold mist over the Snake River on a winter's morning. The grey 2009 Nissan Versa sat on the riverbank, water streaming from its doors and wheel wells, a 4-year mystery hauled into the stark light of a May morning. For Amy and Alan Hall, who had stood on that very bank watching the recovery, the sight was a physical blow. The hope they had carried for over 1,500 days, the hope that their son was somewhere in Canada with his camping gear, starting a new life, evaporated in the presence of the dripping, familiar car. "I don't think he grabbed someone else and put them in the car," Alan Hall said, the words heavy with a father's reluctant acceptance. It was a definitive end to the limbo of maybe. The car was here. Jed, their son, was almost certainly inside. The vehicle was transporting to a secure location for processing by law enforcement. Inside, investigators found what they expected and dreaded: human remains. For a positive identification, the Bonneville County Coroner's Office worked with local experts and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which already had Jade's dental records on file. The process moved swiftly. On May 4, 2022, just 3 days after the recovery, the coroner's office issued its finding. The remains were positively identified as those of Matthew Jed Hall. The official announcement from Idaho Falls Police Chief Bryce Johnson was somber and respectful. In any missing person case, our sincere hope is to find the person alive and well. While this is not the outcome we had hoped for, we appreciate all those who have assisted in this investigation and the effort to provide answers to Jade's family and loved ones. Our hearts are with the Hall family. For law enforcement, the case had reached its conclusion. The missing person was found, yet the discovery also prompted a difficult review. The Bonneville County Sheriff's Office dive team had searched the Snake River at least 3 times in the years Jade was missing. They had used sonar and focused on areas upstream from the last cell phone ping. Jade's car, however, was found downstream from the boat ramp used by Adventures with Purpose, only 50 feet from shore in water, about 8 feet deep. It was a location that had been somehow missed. Bonneville County Sheriff Sam Hulse offered empathy to the Hall family and stated his office would evaluate the search operations tied to the case. The sheriff's office regrets that Jade or the vehicle were not located in previous efforts, the official statement read. For the Hall family, the public resolution of the case did not translate to private peace. The why that now remained was perhaps more haunting than the where had been. They had the devastating answer to one question, but it opened a chasm of others that would never have answers. The enduring mystery of the final moments. With Jade and his vehicle found in the river, the core question shifted from location to intent. What happened on that dark, freezing road in January 2018? The official police narrative acknowledged both possibilities present from the start. Jade left a note indicating he may attempt suicide, and a journal was found with plans to run away from home. The evidence in the car, camping gear, a handgun, complicated a simple narrative. The accident theory. This is the simplest explanation, and one that statistics from groups like Adventures with Purpose suggest is tragically common. A teenage driver, possibly distressed, tired, or unfamiliar with the exact road in the darkness, makes a single error, a momentary lapse in attention, a turn taken too fast on a riverbank road, and the car plunges into the water. The shock of the cold, the disorientation, the pressure of the water, it would have been over quickly. This theory aligns with the car's position downstream, as if it had entered the water and been carried by the current before settling. The intentional act theory. This is the shadow cast by the note his parents found. If Jade drove into the river on purpose, it was a final act at odds with other parts of his preparation. He took survival gear. He wrote about faking his death and a bug-out plan called RAFH. Can a person simultaneously plan for a new life and plan to end their own? The human mind, especially one in the tumult of adolescence, is capable of holding contradictory truths. The note may have been a genuine expression of his pain in that moment, the packing, a force of habit, or a fading glimmer of a different plan. The unknowable truth. The most likely answer is that the precise state of Jed Hall's mind in his final minute will forever be a mystery. It is a secret the river kept, even when it gave up the car. As his father, Alan, had noted years earlier, Jade did not show the classic tendencies they associated with someone considering suicide. Yet the note existed. The evidence was contradictory, and now conclusive proof of his intent is lost to those final, silent moments. A family's altered landscape. For Amy and Alan Hall, the discovery meant the end of searching, but the beginning of a different kind of grief. The torturous, not knowing, was replaced by the certainty of loss. There would be no more chasing tips from California, no more analyzing his journal for clues of a destination, no more birthdays spent wondering if he was alive to see them. They could now lay their son to rest. They could visit a grave. These are the anchors of mourning, the tangible things that were denied to them for 4 years. The team from Adventures with Purpose, who had located the car in under an hour after years of it being missing, offered a poignant reflection that many families in their situation express. It's never closure. You never get over losing someone you love. However, when we lose somebody and we don't know what happened, that's the ultimate nightmare. They now know, they knew where, they knew how. The why would become a part of their memory of him, a question they might learn to stop asking because an answer is impossible. Their love for their son is no longer tangled in the frantic energy of a search. It now exists in the quieter, enduring landscape of remembrance, the ripple effect. The resolution of Jed Hall's case sent ripples beyond his family. For the Idaho Falls Police Department, it was the closing of a long, frustrating case file. They expressed sincere gratitude to Adventures with Purpose, acknowledging the unique service they provide to families across the country. The partnership showed how non-traditional groups with specialized technology can work within an official investigation to achieve what had previously been impossible. For the community of Idaho Falls, it was the end of a local mystery. The missing teen whose poster had been shared countless times was finally found. It brought a collective sadness, but also a relief that the question mark that had hung over the city was finally taken down. For the world of online true crime, Jade's story became another example of a modern phenomenon. It was a case cracked not solely by detectives in an interrogation room, but by a dive team whose work was funded by YouTube viewers and sales of safety tools. His name joined a list of over 20 others on the Adventures with Purpose in Memory page, a digital testament to lives recovered from the depths. His story is a stark lesson in how often the simplest answer, a car in the water near the last known location, is the correct one, and how easily water can conceal what is desperately sought. Final words. The Snake River still flows through Idaho Falls, as it did on the night Jed Hall disappeared. It is no longer a place of mystery, but a site of resolution. The current that once hid a secret now merely moves water under bridges past a city that has learned a painful truth. The story of Jed Hall is not a story with a twist, but a story with an end. It is about the agony of the unknown and the different, more settled pain of the known. It is about the contradiction of a boy who packed for a journey and left a note of ending. It demonstrates that the most complex mysteries can have the simplest solutions, hidden not in the wilderness of another state, but in the familiar waters of home. In the end, the river gave him back. It did not give back the why or the final thought or the lost years, but it gave his family the one thing they needed most to begin healing, an answer. And in the silent space that follows an answered question, love, unbound from the desperation of search, can finally find its proper place in memory and in peace.